You know, YouTube really sucks right now, but I'm gonna do everything in my power to change that. And it all starts today. Let's go start a very special project. I'm scaping this tank for a huge project that I'm super excited about. The start of this project marks the start of huge changes to this channel. Changes that I believe will improve this channel and the content we produce. I'll show you the project and why I opened this video by saying YouTube sucks right now later on, but for now, let's talk about this tank. This is what will be known from this day forward as the IZZY tank. Why the IZZY tank, you ask? Well, Lisa and I just welcomed our first granddaughter into our world, and her name's IZZY, and she's perfect. The second our daughter told us they're naming her IZZY, Lisa said, I'm calling her IZZY. So there you go. It's the IZZY tank. You thought I was naming the tank after the Guns N' Roses guitar player. Come on. Anyway, this is a 20-gallon high that I picked up at Petco, and it needs to be perfect. Not only because I'm naming it after my granddaughter, but because you're going to be seeing this tank a lot. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot. The first thing I had to do was paint the background. This was simple enough because I had an old can of black Plastidip laying around, so I just used that. It's pretty simple. I taped up the trim with painter's tape and sprayed it on in several light coats. Now for the hardscape. I had a few pieces of Malaysian driftwood laying around because I didn't feel like they were up to par to sell. Individually, these aren't the nicest looking pieces, but put them together and you make one big, really nice piece. I soaked these pieces on the stove for a few hours to release the tannins and also remove any mold or bacteria that might be on them. I mean, these pieces are cleaned before we get them, but you just never know. It's better to be safe than sorry. The long piece wasn't going to stay in place and would be falling down every time I touched it, so to fix that, I drilled 2 holes all the way through both pieces and used plastic zip ties to hold them together. I could have done this with epoxy, but I didn't have any on hand except for the purple stuff used in live rock in the saltwater tank. The zip ties will be covered up with the plants later on, so this really isn't an issue. With the hardscape done, it's time for the fun part, picking the plants. And I know just the place to do it. Let's go to the barn. Before I set up the tank, I was out here playing around with those 3 pieces of driftwood, kind of configuring them in the way that I wanted them to be. And while I was doing that, I came up with what I think is a pretty good plan for these plants. Plan for the plants. The first plant that I chose is the Lindernia rotundifolia. I'm going to do my best to say these names properly. This is quickly becoming one of my favorite plants along with Bacopa and Rotala. I absolutely love all of these plants. Why? Because they get big, they're bright, and you don't have to be an expert to keep them. These plants, you put them in the water, they're going to grow really, really well. So the Lindernia and Bacopa caroliniana, because it has Carolina in it, and I live in North Carolina, but no, actually, it's because both of these are going to get very big. They're perfect for the back of the tank behind that driftwood. They'll come out, they'll spread out all over. The 2 of these mixed together is going to look absolutely phenomenal in the back, and you're looking at 2 of my favorite plants in all of this hobby. On the topic of Bacopa, we're also going to use a different variety of Bacopa, and that is the compact variety of it. I love this because it has the same look as the Caroliniana Bacopa. It's hard to say all of these words, but it's smaller, and this is going to be perfect for in front of that driftwood because it's not going to get huge and cover it up, but it's going to bring that color and kind of bring it all forward. I love that. So that's the plan with these. Going to mix a couple of these in front of the driftwood, along with these 2 plants. These are also becoming my favorites, and part of that might be because we just sell so many of them, but these are the 2 different types of Ludwigia that we carry from Tropica. This is the Reuben, and this is the Super Red. The Reuben is bigger. The leaves are larger than the Super Red, but the Super Red is super red. Now, it's probably not really going to look like it in this particular lighting, but under aquarium lighting, this is, well, super red, and it's going to look awesome. What I plan on doing is putting these Reubens back behind with the Bacopa and the Lindernia, and then, did I say that right? I did, I said it right, Lindernia. It's a crazy language that we're speaking here. And then this is gonna be mixed in with the Bacopa Compact, which is perfect. Splash a little red in there. I love it. Crypts. Listen, if you have a planted tank and you're not keeping crypts, you're doing this wrong, because these plants are fantastic. I absolutely love these. They bring those big leaves, mix it in with all of those plants that have the little leaves on it, and it just makes a huge statement. This is, I'm gonna try to say this properly, the Crypt Wenditii? That's how I say it. I've heard it said other ways, but I'm gonna say Wenditii. Anubias callidifolia, Anubias gracilis. These two plants are as easy to keep as plastic plants, folks. I promise you, they even feel hardy. They feel stiff like plastic plants. If you can keep water in a glass box, you can keep these plants. And these are gonna be perfect for attaching to the driftwood to cover up those areas, cover up those holes that I drilled for the zip ties, and cover up the seams in the driftwood, making it all look like one big piece. These are absolutely perfect. Anubias. To me, this has always sounded like a comic book villain's name, or the name of a rock band. Power 105, we play all the hits, including this one from Anubias. It's called Stuck to a Rock. So stupid. Now let's talk about tissue cultures. For that piece of driftwood that sticks out over into the tank, I want to cover that in moss. And so for that, I'm gonna use the biggest no-brainer of all time, Taxiphyllum barberi. This is, well, it's Java moss. This is gonna be really easy to glue to that piece of driftwood. I'm not gonna completely cover it right off the bat because I don't wanna use 12 cups of this, but it won't take long at all for this to spread and just completely cover that up. Along with the rock band Anubias and the moss on the driftwood, I'm also gonna attach some of this. This is Bucephalandra, which I have a very special place in my heart for. Jake Adams turned me on to this plant, and I've been a huge fan of them ever since. We have 3 different types of Bucephalandra that we usually keep in, but they're very, very difficult to get. This one just became available. It's not a brand new thing, but it's brand new to us. The Bucket Kellam? I'm not sure how to say it. I'm not sure how to say a lot of these words, but you understand what I'm trying to say, at least I hope. But this is gonna be really cool to attach to the driftwood too. Just make it covered with a whole bunch of different things. Big Anubias, small Bucephalandra, moss. It's gonna look really cool. I'm excited to try this one out. Like I said, we just got it in and I've never tried it before, so this is gonna be fun. All right, so that's the plants that we're gonna use. Now it's time to have some fun and get them in the tank. All right, so we've got our plan for the hardscape, we have our plants picked out, and it's time to start putting this whole thing together. I started with the plants that'll be attached to the wood. That would be all of the Taxiphyllum, the Anubias, and the Bucephalandra. There's a lot of ways you can attach these to wood, but I like to do it the easiest and fastest way, which is using aquascaping glue. We carry the Seachem Flourish glue, and since we carry it, you know what that means. That means we use it. We wouldn't carry something if we weren't using it, so it wasn't even a question what we were going to use. Plus, I gotta be honest, it's pretty nice walking through the warehouse and just picking whatever you want because everything's already paid for. One of the perks of the job. One of the drawbacks to using cyanoacrylate glue is once it dries, it appears really white in the tank and can be pretty unsightly until the plants fill in. No matter what glue you use, you gotta understand that a little bit goes a very long way. I think a lot of people use way too much glue when they're doing this, and that's the cause of most of the problems. With 20 years in the woodworking and furniture repair industry, believe me, I have a ton of experience with cyanoacrylate glue. You just need a little, I promise. Now listen, I am not a professional aquascaper. Although I did win second place in the Creator Aquascaping Contest at Aquashella last year, second to the great Tanner Serpa, which basically means I won. Scaping against Tanner is like playing golf with Tiger in the late 90s. The whole field is fighting for second place. Anyway, I don't know all the rules for aquascaping, but I do have common sense. And when it comes to attaching moss, to me, it makes the most sense to attach it where the light would hit it. Light won't hit the bottom of the wood, so why would I put moss there? I don't know if I'm right here, but to me, if you're trying to make this look somewhat natural, it makes sense. I glued the moss to all of the top areas of the wood where the light would hit it, and then I moved on to the Bucephalandra. When I took these little plants out of the cup, I was really happy to see I got like 5 pieces in that one cup. Tissue cultures are young plants, so they're small and they can fit a lot of them in one of those little cups. I placed these in the holes that I had drilled for the zip ties, and they did a great job covering them up. Then, the leftovers, I just glued over on the other side. Next was the Anubias. I picked out a huge Callidifolia and thought the perfect spot for it was right in the center. It looks good here, plus it covers the joint between the wood. The Anubias gracilis was next, and I kind of did the same thing by placing it between the 2 pieces of wood. I'm not sure how I feel about this because gracilis grows differently than other Anubias, but we'll see how it goes. With all the plants that were going to be attached to the wood in place, I put the entire thing down in the tank and adjusted it to fit perfectly. I wanted that large arm-like piece to not only stick out, but I wanted it to come forward, and this worked perfectly. Once everything was in place, I installed the substrate. I used fluval stratum for this because we've used it a bunch of times in the past and we've always had great success. Plus, I like the look of it. When it came to choosing a filter, it really was no choice. It's a Tidal 35. It's not even up for debate. The Tidal series of filters is the best on the market. Period. And I'll say that to your face. If you don't like the Tidal series, it's because you either have an agenda, like, hey, don't buy a Tidal filter because they're junk, buy mine instead, or you just don't know much about filters. Anyway, the heater was also an easy choice because I've fallen in love with the titanium heaters from Aquatop. Now this is a 20 gallon. It's not like I'm going to have fish in here that are going to break a glass heater, but I still love how durable they are and how the adjustment for the temperature is outside of the tank. You know, sometimes you just don't want to get your hands wet. If you know me, you already know the light I'm using on here. It's the Lumilight, but I'm not going to go on and on and on because you'll end up thinking this is just a commercial. If you want to see videos about the equipment I used, I'll put them all in the description along with links if you want to order them. For the stem plants, this was where I really show my inexperience. I say that because I don't really have rhyme or reason. I just place them where I think they'll look nice. I got a lot of respect for aquascapers that use minimal plants or just use one type of plant, but for me, I like tanks that are full of plants. When this thing grows out, I want people to look at it and go, wow, look at all those plants. Hey, wait a minute. There's wood in there. And some of the plants are actually growing on the wood. How cool. Rather than, oh man, look at that gorgeous piece of wood. Oh, and how cute. There's even little plants on it. Listen, the beautiful thing about aquascaping is you can do whatever you want. Whatever style you like is what you should do. And there's really no right or wrong way to do it. Yeah, if you're going to start entering contests and competing against George Farmer, Jen Williams, and Melanie Holmes, you got to play by the rules. But if you're setting this up for yourself, do whatever makes you happy. And that's exactly what I did here. All right, I'm going to try to get all these names right and sound smart. I placed the Lindernia rotundifolia, Bacopa caroliniana, and Ludwigia rubin in the back, the Bacopa compact and Ludwigia super red in the front, and the Cryptocorn wenditii in tight to the wood. I don't know if you saw it when I was working on it, but there's a perfect little round opening in the piece of wood on the right. To me, that spot was begging for one of those crypts. For the last plant, I made a last-minute decision to add one that we didn't talk about when we were in the plant room, and that's the Hygrophila coriambosa compact. I'm getting used to these names. This was totally an impulse decision. I saw it and said, hey, that'll look good too. And I just grabbed it. All in all, I'm really happy with how it turned out, but I'll be even more happy in a few months when those plants in the back have grown up so high that I need to trim them back. Unfortunately, right now, you can barely even see them. Now you're probably wondering about fish. Well, if you know anything about me, you know I'm a big fan of fish that aquarium snobs would never keep just because they're too basic. I have a tank full of nothing but yellow lab cichlids and a 360 gallon with Oscars. You have no idea how many messages I've gotten from people saying, dude, you have the tank of everyone's dreams and you waste it on stupid Oscars. Well, I like what I like, and I don't really care if you don't like them because, well, they're mine. For this tank, I'm thinking of a nice big old group of neon tetras. All I'm going to say is some of the most beautiful scapes I've ever seen have had neons in them. And it just really stuck with me. I just think it's a gorgeous look, and neons, they need more love. Let's stop treating them like a second-rate fish that are only for beginners. Having said that, let me know what you think of the idea in the comments below. If you hate the idea, feel free to leave your suggestions of what fish you think I should get. And while you're down there, subscribe so you get to watch this tank as it grows out. If I see a really good suggestion, I might change my mind. So here it is. But where is it? Well, this is a room in our house that I've been begging Lisa for months to let me convert into a little filming studio for YouTube videos. I know, I've been saying for a year now that I'm not going to put any more aquariums in my house. But there's a good reason for this. First is, we're not using this room for anything. And second is, I need a place that's always ready to go. Somewhere where I can just turn on the lights, turn on the camera, and start filming. This will be for when I have something super important to talk to you about, or I really want to show you something. This will always be here, and it'll always be ready. I plan on doing a lot of things with this space, including putting a couple of nano tanks, one on each side of the tank, and decorate the walls and stuff like that. Make it look really nice so that you don't have to just sit here and stare at my dumb face the whole time. But what about my statement in the beginning of the video? You know, the one where I said, YouTube really sucks right now? Well, look around. The fish keeping community on YouTube doesn't have the same energy level that it had a year ago, and it's definitely lower than 2021. I think this is happening for a lot of reasons, and one of them is we're all just kind of going through the motions. A live stream here, a species profile there, I bought a new fish, look at my new tank. It's all the same stuff over and over and over again. And if I'm being honest, I think people are just getting burnt out. Well, having a space like this is going to help me to get more creative and do things differently. Yeah, there's going to be aquascapes, there's going to be product reviews and all of that other stuff. But I feel like having this space is going to allow me to do it differently and make things exciting again. Fingers crossed. So stay tuned, subscribe and follow along with me as I build this space out and finish the other projects that have been temporarily put on hold because somebody decided it's the perfect time to have a baby. Oh, and by the way, everything you saw me use in this video, with the exception of the tank, the lid, and the substrate, is available on our website, down to the glue and the tweezers and everything. So if you want to duplicate a scape like this, head over to keepfishkeeping.com. You can get everything in one place. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.